Guys. Hope you had a good Christmas. Let's start chapter three. So in previous chapter we saw external analysis, like we did external analysis. Why is it important? How it is to be done? Today we'll see internal analysis. Internal analysis is basically a resource-based model. So we saw three models in the first chapter, right? Um, Internal industrial organization model, resource-based model, and stakeholder model, right? So resource-based model basically tells us that we have to first identify our capabilities, resources, capabilities, which will give us competitive advantage, and that is when we proceed to uh, figuring out a suitable industry to get above average returns, right? But why do firms need to do inter like internal internal environment analysis? Why is it important? Because sooner or later your capabilities or your core competencies will become obsolete. And if we remember the four things that make our capabilities core competence, which were valuable, rare, inimitable, and non substitutable, that will basically give us these 3 points that uh, our core competency can be valuable, but because we have stopped innovating, sooner or later our core competency can become obsolete, right? And non-substitutable point gives us that there could be some substitutes which can replace our product. Basically, these 3 points are connected in some way with each other, right? And they can be imitated. So that is why they can become substitutes, right? So in a way, these all 3 points somewhat point to the same thing, right? So that is why we need to continuously assess that uh, do we have the required capabilities which will give us competitive advantage. That is, we have to match our opportunities and threats in the internal organization to the opportunities and threats in the external environment. They should match, right? And we may have resources, but resources alone will not give us competitive advantage. So if we remember from the previous lectures that not every resource is a capability. Like we may have a lot of money, but just money cannot give us any competitive advantage, right? So not every resource is a capability, and not every capability is a competitive advantage. Not every capability is a competitive advantage. And we remember the example of Polaroid. That Polaroid has a capability that it can give instant photos on the spot. But despite that, that is not a competitive advantage because that is not really helped survive the firm. Like that has not really helped make the firm very popular or the first choice among customers, right? So uh, we have to convert our resources to capabilities and then capabilities to core competence. Like Walmart uses its everyday low price approach. It has resources that it has very good IT structure, very lean supply chain, and then it converts that resource into its capabilities and then um, core competency through EDLP or everyday low price. So resources can be of two types: tangible resources and intangible resources. Which of the two do you think gives better competitive advantage? Intangible resources give better competitive advantage because they are hard to imitate. Like customer service is hard to imitate. Good customer service is hard to imitate. Work culture is hard to imitate. I have a very close friend who works at Goldman Sachs at Wall Street, Goldman Sachs headquarters. That guy and the firm both tick all the boxes. Like that guy is extremely highly talented. Masters in finance from UC Berkeley, has cleared all the three levels of FRM and CFA, and has all the big names on his CV and work experience and everything. But uh, the work culture is really toxic. Every day he says that I'm not able to survive, and if I am not able to bear the pressure and the cold, uh, cold attitude of the colleagues, and if that remains the case, then maybe in a few months I will have to go back to India. Despite that, he has spent so much money on education here and all. So work culture is very important, and it's an intangible resource. And if you have started reading the Southwest case, then you would know that how it is difficult to imitate. The competitive advantage in case of Southwest is basically its work culture, and same is Trader Joe's when you will read the Trader Joe's case as well, right? So, um, though Southwest is considered one of the you know cheap or inexpensive airlines, but that is exactly not its main competitive advantage because I have observed that Southwest is not always the cheapest option available. It's mostly Spirit and Frontier that are cheaper than Southwest, but people choose Southwest because of the comfort and the welcoming nature of the airlines. So, intangible resource always give you more competitive advantage than tangible resource. Those tangible resource can be copied, imitated, and all, but intangible are very hard to be imitated. Then firm will, of course, combine its tangible and intangible resource to create the capability. Like, for example, uh, say Subway. Right, Subway's resources. Resource could be fresh vegetables, fresh meat, fresh vegetables could be the resource. But that alone is not enough. Anybody can have fresh vegetables. I mean, I can have fresh vegetables, but does that give me a competitive advantage? No. I'll have to convert my resource to capability. Capability could be uh, how to combine the vegetables and bread in an effective manner to create good food. And then good food plus good service will give me competitive advantage if I can do it better than my rivals, right? So that is how we convert our resources to capabilities and capabilities to core competencies. And why could core competencies be costly to imitate? Because of unique historical conditions, like for example, you know, good customer service in case of Japanese firm has a historical reason to it, that they are, they have obsession with perfection, or organization culture in case of Southwest or Trader Joe's. That also is the reason. It has both historical reason, that it was due to the CEO's nature, CEO's insistence that that is how the nature of the firm should be. That is how the culture of the firm should be. That we will be all happy-go-lucky and all. So that is why it could be costly to imitate. It's very hard to codify those things. If a rival firm wants to do that, oh, let us copy the organizational culture of Southwest, but it's very hard to codify that. How exactly do you define happy employees, or funny employees? It's very hard to define that. That is just the nature of the people there. So these all reasons make it hard to imitate the capabilities of the firm. And if the if the capability is tangible, like say in the case of IT sector, you know, where you can reverse engineer things, then they can easily be copied. So there's something called Moore's law. Uh, Moore's law. Have you heard the term Moore's law before? No? Moore's law in IT sector is basically, Gordon Moore was the founder and CEO of Intel. He gave the law back in 1960s that the number of transistor on the chips, on the microchips, become they will double every 2 years. That is, the strength of the chips will double every 2 years, and price will half every 2 years. That will be the pace of development in IT sector. If you don't catch up with it, if you don't, if you are not able to keep the pace, then you will become obsolete. And we see that in our lives now, 60 years later as well. uh, you know uh, 10 years ago we used to have 8 GB phones, 16 GB phones. uh, the memory of the phone, not RAM, but now we have 128 GB, 256 GB, even 512 GB phones, and the price of the same phone gets lower every year, every 2 years, right? So that is how fast these tangible technologies get obsolete, right? But intangible ones are hard to imitate. Like for example, aircraft is a tangible uh, asset. One aircraft you can use on only one route by the airline, right? But the customer service, or the way employees conduct themselves, if they learn that, if they adopt that uh, decorum, then they can be used on any route. That decorum or that culture can be used on any route. It does not perish. It does not get consumed like aircraft, which is a tangible asset, which gets consumed on one route, then you cannot use it on other routes. But the culture can be used on as number. It gets multiplied, right? Tangible strengths and intangible strengths get multiplied while tangible are fixed. Like, then reputation, excuse me, is also an intangible resource. People buy certain products because of their brand value. Uh, then the four criteria of sustainable competitive advantage. So uh, when a new product is made, but if it's easily imitable, then it will provide you a competitive advantage for a very short period of time, like Groupon, right? It gave initial success, but can be imitated. So competitors have come up. Then, yeah, costly to imitate thing, as I said, that when the competitive, when the reason for being core competency is causally ambiguous, that is, the harder it is to codify your strength, uh, the more difficult it would be, difficult for competitors to copy you. Yeah, so it's basically repeating the same points again, that social complexity, or social complexity or um, historical reasons in the case of Southwest. So that is why it becomes harder to imitate. So when we devise a strategy for our firm, we need to first identify the core competencies. Like Apple had the core competency of innovation. Now people don't find it that innovative, but at one point of time, it used to be one of the most innovative firms. So that is how it was able to keep the competitive edge. And despite um, all the strengths, all the core competencies that a firm could have, still one half of the organizational decisions fail, one half of the strategies fail. And you will notice this throughout the course, that every chapter, every other chapter, we will we will read such things which would be very pessimistic, that like in this case, one half of the organizational decision fails. When we move to mergers and acquisition strategies, we will see that majority of the M&As fail, right? More than 60-70% of the M&As, they fail, they are not successful. And when we move to corporate governance chapters and CSR chapters, we will find that, oh, most of the CSR strategies do not give any edge, at least a monetary edge to the firm. Most of the corporate governance techniques are not successful. So sometimes we would question ourselves, that what is the use of studying strategy if strategies are not successful most of the times, right? But that is how the nature of these strategies are. Uh, like What is the recent M&As that you have heard? One of the best ways to be a successful manager is to be aware, to consistently read news and be, keep yourself abreast of the happenings in the business world. So I don't know how much you guys like reading news, but have you heard of any mergers and acquisitions in the recent times? Any popular, any significant M&A announced in the
I
last?
mean, Netflix bought Warner Bros. That's pretty cool.
Yes, yes, it has bid for Warner Bros.
hmm
It has just announced. It's not completed yet. Which other player entered this game?
It was Paramount.
Yes, yes, yes. That is the most significant M&A in the recent days. Any
Mm.
other before that? Just before Netflix M&A, a few days before that, also something significant had happened.
Was it with OpenAI, NVIDIA, and AMD? How they
Yeah, but but they did not allow. They did not announce M&A. That was just investment in each other. That was
yeah,
corporate
that's what.
strategy. Mhm.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that was not a merger or acquisition. But yeah, good point. I mean, you read a lot, so it shows. Uh,
There was also Palo Alto Networks and I think CyberArk for like cybersecurity.
okay,
Besides acquisition.
I'm not aware of that one. Probably
Okay.
so not that popular firms, maybe so. I'm not aware.
Mars
But
also
I did read about. Huh?
sorry,
Yes,
Mars
yes.
also acquired Kellogg's like last month or this month.
Which firm acquired Kellogg's?
Mars, the makers of M&Ms.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Something in fashion industry. Prada acquired versus. Right. Did you hear about that? No. Ignore the number of tabs I keep open. No, I keep my computer very messy, but it is how it is. Mm, yeah, that was just last month for $1.3 billion. So my research is on M&As. So whenever I read those terms, uh, my eyes widen. So actually, Netflix, and if you read about Netflix and all, you'll find that New Jersey is becoming the new hub of entertainment industry and shooting. Uh,
Yeah, they're building it where the old Fort Monmouth used to be.
yeah, and not just Netflix. Even I think Paramount is also building something. And I guess like three shooting locations, big shooting locations. I mean, are coming up in New Jersey in the next 1 to 2 years. I saw like there's a close temple, like a temple close to my home. I go there frequently, and this last month I saw that there was some shooting going on in the Indian temple for some movie. So New Jersey is going to become a big hub
Yeah,
for.
they said that they're trying to make it like the next Hollywood.
Yes, yes, exactly. So, what are the challenges of analyzing the internal organization? So, I already gave this example, the Polaroid Corporation, right? That you might think that something is your core competency, but it could just be a capability and not be a core competency. Like Polaroids, people thought that superior manufacturing was a core competence, but it was not. So, what could be the reasons why um, you would find it hard, you would find it difficult to analyze your uh, internal organization? One could be uncertainty of the environment, like uncertainty in the environment could be challenges, proprietary technologies, like the external environment is very fast moving in the case of IT, electronics, and all. So you might get confused that the resource and capabilities we have are they really our core competence or not? Like it may confuse you due to the uncertain environment, rapidly changing economic and political trends, or transformations in societal values. You may have a resource like if you are in the field of education and all, or attire, but your core competence or capabilities becomes useless if you are in Afghanistan, and shift in customer demands, like right. So all this uncertainty could make analyzing your internal organization difficult, right? And if you have if if you do not have the all the four conditions for core competence, like valuable, rare, costly to imitate, and non-substitutable, then your competitive consequence would be temporary competitive advantage. Like for example, your capability is valuable, rare, costly to imitate, but it's not exactly non-substitutable. Then sooner or later it will be replaced. So you will have competitive advantage, but for a short time. Same way, if you have just two out of the four, it's valuable and it's not substitutable, but it's not rare and it's not costly to imitate. Then also you will have just average returns, not above average returns. Right. So the lesson we learn is that by the time you have a competitive advantage, exploit it to the fullest. Like Google had competitive advantage for almost 20-25 years till ChatGPT came up. Use it to the fullest, like monetize it as much as you can, the maximum monetization, which Google did, of course. And keep in mind that sooner or later, one day you will be challenged. So keep using your resources and capabilities to develop new future competitive advantages. Because if you rely too much on your current core competency, then it can turn into core rigidity. That is, you are not innovating, and one day your competitive advantage will fade, like what happened in case of Google, right? So we move to value chain. Value chain is just a new fancy term for supply chain, basically. Anything and everything that provides value to your product is called value chain. So they keep coming up with fancy words every now and then. Like earlier, they used to call it CSR, corporate social responsibility. Nowadays, they call it ESG, environmental, social, and governance. So that is just a way how these corporate people keep coming up with new fancy terms. So in the value chain, they say that keep your keep your primary activities, that is, primary activities would be something like R&D, the most important activities at home, and the things that are not providing much value to your product, outsource them. Now, outsourcing is a controversial term because especially, I mean, at least in the recent times, there's a lot of controversy that we have to bring back things to US. We should stop outsourcing to other countries, and we will see why. We will just in a minute. We will see why that controversy is happening and what are the pros and cons. So first, we need to understand what is the value here that we are talking about. So the first block is cost price, right? We have studied cost price and selling price in economics, right? So cost price is the product of a cost of production, right, for the firm. So it takes $400 to $500 for Apple to make an iPhone, right? Then this light pink block is selling price. That Apple makes a phone for $500 but sells it at $1,200, right? But why would someone buy iPhone for $1,200? What is this orange block? So, say I am a phone user, I am an iPhone user, and I feel that uh, I get a value of about $50 every day from my phone. Like I use Instagram and Snapchat, which give me the happiness, which give me the worth of about $20 to $30. I feel that when when I post selfies on Instagram and Snapchat, I feel like I have made use of at least $20 worth of money every day through the mental satisfaction, psychological satisfaction I get from using the phone. And then rest $20 to $30 comes from using Google, like internet search, Google Chat GPT, calling my friends, calling my family, keeping touch with my family, right? That much phone we use every day, at least. We are all phone addicts, at least I am. I know that when I buy a $200, $300 phone, within 3 to 4 months, I use it so much that within 2 to 3 months, I extract the value of those $200 to $300 easily. Within 3 months, I have extracted the value that I spent on the phone. Now, if I get at around $50 worth of value every day from using the phone, and if I use the iPhone for 2 years, how much value do I get in total from the phone? 50 into 365 into 2, right? Yep, calculator. 50 into 365 into 2. Oh God, it's a lot. $36,000. I mean, basically, the point was this is the value the customer is getting, which is 36,000. I mean, you can reduce the 50 to 20 or 30 every day. So the value will final value would come around $15,000, $18,000. This is the value customer feels the phone is providing to her. Okay, orange block, which is 36,000 or 18,000, $15,000 minus $1,200 that the person is spending on buying the phone. That is the orange block. The bigger the orange block is, the higher the chance that customer will buy your product instead of your rival's product, right? That is the this is the rectangle that we have to maximize, right? The value the consumer feels the product is giving to him or her, that is the value we have to maximize, right? So what all activities go into making new product? Operations, distribution, marketing, service, supply chain. Inbound logistics is when you get raw materials that come to your factory, right? Then you operate on it and convert the raw materials to your final product, and then you ship it to the distribution channels, which is outbound logistics. And then you spend on marketing and sales, letting the people know about your product, right? And then your after sales service. Each activity should be examined relative to competitors' abilities and rated as superior, equivalent, or inferior. What is this? What is a term used for this whole sentence? A single term. Did we read something like this in the last 2, 3 days? Each activity should be examined relative to competitors' abilities and rated as superior, equivalent, or inferior. Is there like a term, a single term for this whole sentence that we saw in the last few days? Jackson, have you heard a term? Read a term for the sentence? Jackson, are you there? Jackson, are you there? Your video is turned off. There's no way for me to know whether you're there or not. Okay, what about your camera? Anybody else? Does anybody else remember? Please turn on your camera, Jackson, by the way. Because last 3 days I have never seen your camera turned on even once. So
Is it operational effectiveness?
operational effectiveness, no.
Is it value chain analysis?
Mm,
Is it benchmarking?
yes, it's benchmarking. Right. It's benchmarking, right? No. You benchmark, you compare your product to other products, especially the industry leaders, right? That is what it is. Okay. Tell me one thing. What are pros and cons? What are some pros and cons of outsourcing? Say, I'm Boeing. Okay. I'm Boeing, and what happened with Boeing was in 1960s, less than 5% of its parts, airplane parts, were manufactured outside US. But as international business grew, as globalization spread, Boeing slowly started outsourcing a lot, right? That some product, like say tires, wings, engines, are being made at in different parts of the world, and then they are assembling the product in US. Okay, but then by late 90s and early 2000s, Boeing decided to slowly bring all the outsourcing back to US and make their own parts. It decreased the outsourcing a lot, reduced outsourcing a lot. So this is true story. So it actually happened, right? This is in your book as well. This example is basically from your book. So why do you think Boeing outsourced so much in the first place, and then they brought back all the outsourcing to US? What are the pros and cons?
One pro or con could be like cheaper labor cost to build outside the US.
Yes, that's probably the very first thought that comes to our mind, that cheap
Um,
labor cost is what we want to exploit, right? Yes, right.
But
Another one could be like comparative advantage. Like maybe a different industry had like would make better products with like I don't know like the tires. Maybe they like outsource them to like Michelin because they're known for their tires or stuff like that.
Yes, expertise or quality, right? So if Boeing is outsourcing, say, manufacturing of engines, where do you think Boeing would outsource manufacturing of engines to? Which country, which part of the world do you think they
China
would outsource?
or Germany.
Germany, yes, not China. Germany, automobiles. Germany is known for automobiles, right?
Yeah,
Engines.
BMWs.
Yes,
Yeah, that whole
yes.
brand.
Germany and Japan,
Yeah.
right? So that is that is a pro.
Okay.
Anything else?
a con could be lack of control because you're not directly there to oversee everything.
Yes, yes. Lack of control could be a con.
And the
Uh,
quality.
quality. Yes, maybe you're not happy with the quality.
Not only that, but they had like a lot of the assembling was an issue, and what they had like last year, I guess, 2 years ago, one of their doors was not assembled properly and kind of like disassembled when they were taking off or landing was a big scandal. And that's why they started to bring it back to US.
Yes, Boeing has seen a lot of controversy in the last 2 years. So you guys might have seen that video which Elena is talking about, that its door or window fell midway during the flight, right? And it was in the air, and people were really scared that you are like, I don't know, 10,000 meter above ground, and suddenly, uh, there is some the door or window falls. Uh, then of course you have risk of falling down, and the whole flight could have met with an accident, and they could all have died. So yeah, there have been several incidents with Boeing, and uh, another popular, uh, infamous, and unfortunate incident happened uh, in May or June in India. Did you hear about that? Uh, two, More than 250 people died.
The one
Right?
where they were going to England, I guess.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
I know about that also. Yeah, that was very.
yeah. It was a
Yeah.
London-bound flight, and everybody died. And more people died because the plane
Crashed like after
crashed.
like 15 minutes after it went into the air.
Yeah, it crashed into a medical college, basically hospital come medical college. So a lot of students also died besides the passengers. So yeah, that was very unfortunate. Yeah, so yeah, a lot of incidents have happened. So yes, so as Nina said, coordination problem. Alina said quality problem. Coordination problem could be like, of all the parts that you bring from different parts of the world, maybe they do not fit into each other, right? Quality problem, that, oh, we got nuts and bolts from Vietnam, but they don't fit into the engines that we got from Germany. Or coordination problem could also be that you have got all the parts from everywhere, but just one part is lagging. So you cannot assemble, because you cannot sell the product, because it's a delay, too much of delay from one supplier. Maybe you have got engines, wings, tires, everything, but nuts and bolts have not arrived from Vietnam yet, so you cannot assemble. So coordination problem, right?
It's also if
And
like if there's a disruption in the supply chain, it kind of messes up the whole like sequence and everything.
like what happened during COVID, right, when all the borders were closed. So disruption, and that disruption could be anything, even geopolitical event, anything, right?
I was gonna say lack of vision too. Like your product might not fit in terms of like it has the same functionality, but the vision for that particular part on um, a bigger product might be different.
Yeah, so it's basically kind of quality issue, right? That what you wanted or what you expected the uh, product to be, it does not meet your expectations,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
That,
Yep.
yeah. So another pro or advantage of outsourcing in case of Boeing was, so there are uh, only two major firms in aircraft industry, right? Boeing and Airbus, right? Now, if you outsource, if you say that we'll get our engines made from Japan because Japanese firms are so good at making engines, and if we give like tire manufacturing to Thailand or Vietnam, what do you think the probability would be that Japanese airlines or Vietnamese airlines would place order from Boeing rather than Airbus? So airlines in the world have only two options, right, to place orders to, either Boeing or Airbus. But because your firm is giving billions of dollars worth of business to a country, right? Then there is much higher probability that they will ultimately buy product of your firm, that is Boeing, rather than Airbus. See, German firms are anyway going to buy Airbus because that's a European firm. So let's leave that alone. But rest of the world, say Indian firm, uh, Thai firm, or Japanese firm, because these are billion dollars deals. So they're also, uh, discussed at leadership level. So when when American president goes to Japan or Japanese president comes to US, and when they discuss things, and when they sign a lot of business deals, there's a very high chance that American president would say that, see, our firm Boeing is giving $50 billion worth of business to your firms through placing engine orders. It's supporting so many jobs in your country. We would really like that your airlines, Japanese airlines, however, 5, 10, whatever number of airlines you have, if they buy Boeing aircraft rather than Airbus, that would be very good for our country's relations, and that would be very good for our business as well. Our companies, our Boeing would keep giving business to your firms, right? And that is how it works. That is how the deal would be signed, and that is how President Trump says, right, that Japan is going to invest $900 billion in our country. What does that mean? This is what happens, right? This is what happens in bilateral talks and all. So if Boeing gives business to other nations, it also makes sure that would make sure that those nations' airlines are going to buy Boeing aircrafts. Same for Airbus, right? So that is another big pro, right? That is how it works. That this is what happens. Then another con could be, not could be, that was actually a con. That is what happened with Boeing. That Boeing outsourced its components for so long from 60s to 90s that Boeing realized that they have lost expertise in making their own components. Like Boeing engineers have forgotten how to make these parts, how to make this technology and how to produce these different aircraft parts, because they have not done that job for almost 25, 30 years. So by the late 90s, Boeing realized that, oh, we are making aircraft, but our engineers themselves, like, we don't know how to make a good tire, make a good engine or wings and all, because we have become so dependent on other people doing it for us. So slowly they realized that we should probably bring back some production at least to US. So that is why, for all these reasons, they started bringing some supply chain back to US. These are all the pros and cons. So yeah, what is the function? What is the objective of our value chain? Uh, Either differentiation, that is, perform a value creating activity that competitors cannot perform, either differentiation, or cost leadership, that perform the same activity that your rivals are performing, but at a cheaper value, at a low cost, so that your customers can get higher value, higher orange part, higher value than your rivals. So we'll see this in the subsequent chapters as well, that on what two fronts do you compete? Either you compete on differentiation, that is, you are providing something that your rivals are not able to provide, or you are fighting on cost leadership. You are providing the same thing that your competitors are providing, but at a lower cost, right? When firms have strong positive relationships with suppliers and customers, they are said to have social capital. That is, you have good relations with everyone. And in China, there's a term for it called guanxi. Have you heard this term? Guanxi, ever before? Right. When you have good relations with the society around you, that includes government as well. You need to have some relationship. Uh, so business works on Guanxi there. Difficulties in managerial decision making. So there are a lot of issues that managers face while analyzing internal organization. Like if you have, and like disagreements as well with your colleagues. Like if you have money as a resource, should we spend it on acquiring a firm? Should we spend it on making a new product? Should we spend it on entering a new market? Right. So you have a resource, you have an internal resource, but there's a lot of intra-organizational conflict, especially amongst the top management. It's called TMT, top management or upper echelon. CTO might say that we should spend this money on research and development, R&D, give more money to our R&D department. But CEO may want to enter a new market because entering a new market means that your firm has become bigger, it has grown bigger, and hence CEO qualifies for higher compensation. It happens all the time. It's a very, very common thing in business that CEO would want to enter new product segment or new market segment because then he can justify an increase in compensation and you would get higher compensation. So what we studied in the first chapter, that one of the four assumptions in industrial organization model was that uh, the decision makers, the managers, are always taking decisions that are beneficial for the firm, that are in the best interest of the firm. That was one of the assumptions, right? One of the four assumptions. But that assumption is not always true, because sometimes it would be better that your firm spends money on research or maybe research basically. But you would want to acquire a firm. If you acquire a firm, again the size becomes bigger of your firm, and then also again you can justify higher compensation, right? So there's always this thing. Then some managers do mergers and acquisitions, which 70% of the M&As fail, but still some managers undertake acquisitions just to increase the size of the firm so that they can apply for higher compensation. This reminds me, did you read something in news off late about compensation of a CEO who became the first trillionaire in the world recently? Not exactly trillionaire. I mean, half trillionaire at least. He's halfway there.
Is it Elon?
Elon Musk.
First person in the world to reach a valuation of $500 billion, and then he crossed $600 billion a few days ago. And what was it all about? Why is it being said that he might get 1 trillion, that amount of compensation that he's going to get? What was the whole controversy about? Did you read something about it?
I don't know exactly, but I think like part of it is there was like a $1 trillion package that he was looking at to get from the shareholders to put towards more like advancements in Tesla, but mostly I think it was in SpaceX. was a lot of it.
Yes, correct. But do you know how did he justify $1 trillion package?
That I do not know. I didn't read through all the specifics, just the general gist.
Yes. No. Your answer is correct. Very good that you know about it. But in general, so like one of the last chapters we have in our course is corporate governance, right? So we are anyway gonna discuss all this in detail at that time. But just a common sense question, like why do you think? So like there is a um, executive board meeting going on, suppose of Tesla. Board of directors are sitting, and they have to finalize uh, the pay check for Elon for the next quarter or next financial year, right? On what basis can he, you know, justify his demand? So, say he's sitting there and he says that I want you guys to write $1 trillion in my package for next year, which obviously other board of directors will oppose that. Oh, this is insane. This is way too much. How can you ask for $1 trillion? Like, there's no way we can pay $1 trillion. What could be one thing that he can, say that, oh, okay, if I do this, you will give me $1 trillion. If I do not do this, because this is what happened exactly. So generally, employee compensation or top management compensation is tied to performance, right? That is how it should be. So what happened was, I do not remember the exact details, but this is similar to what happened. He said something like that if the share price, see, everybody, especially the top management, have a lot of shares, right, in the firm, and he has like 15 or 16% shares in Tesla, I guess, right? He said that if the share price of Tesla reaches, say, $1,000 by the end of this year, then I should get $1 trillion. And board was like, there's no way Tesla share can reach $1,000 by the end of the year. It's way too high. That's like 3 times, 4 times the current price, right? So they thought that, okay, fine, if you say so, because we know that there's no way Tesla will reach $1,000. But he also owns X, and he can manipulate the share price by saying crazy things. That is what he does all the time. He says crazy stuff, and that is what results in a lot of fluctuation. Like you can be a crazy person, you can say crazy things, but when you say crazy things regarding the president of the country, regarding the administration, sometimes you have very bonhomie where you are really friendly with the president, and the very next day you have some dip in relation, and then again, and that is exactly how the graph of Tesla also moves. A lot of jump, then suddenly dip, then jump. So he was successful in meeting the target that he had quoted in the board meeting, which nobody had expected. And that is why board forced to give him that much money, because he had got it written down uh, in the board of directors meeting. Right. So yeah, I do not remember the exact details, but this is what the story that I have heard and read. All right, so this was about our chapter 3. We meet on Monday. We have 2 days break. Enjoy the holidays, but also read a very entertaining story of Southwest. And that is how I treat it. Take the cases as storybooks, like comic books that we used to read, then you will really enjoy it.